Assalamualaikum and good day, everyone. This is Miss Farah over here. Thank you so much for tuning and coming to our class for today. Now, when you guys are watching me on this video right now, I'm probably away in Cappadocia on a hot air balloon, enjoying myself as I should be on my leave. But I also do not want everybody here to feel left out from your studies. Hence, I am recording myself doing this class so that everybody here can enjoy a good time. All right, so I wanted to say thank you very much for coming to this online class. I know that everybody here, we all prefer face to face classes. But because I am on leave, so I cannot help it. And this is the best way that I could think about. But do not worry because I also will be recapping and doing lots of recap so that I know we can do a bit more practice in the class so that I can help you guys with your writing. All right, so in our class for today, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to do a bit of introduction to academic writing. And I think that this is a very, very important lesson because most of you guys are first year students. And most of you guys are so used to writing in SPM style, or you are much more accustomed to your way of writing when you guys are in high school. Now, when you get into a university, you will soon realize that the style of writing is actually quite different. And that is also why we have to do a bit of an introduction to the world of academics, because now in your academic journey, right now you're doing your diploma, then you're going to proceed with your bachelor's degree, and probably if you guys are interested, some of you guys probably are going for your postgraduate studies. Now, in academic writing and academic life, you will soon to realize that you have to do assignments, that you have to read a lot of journal articles, and you have to go and find different sources. And this class for today will help you to introduce to those kinds of writings that hopefully you should be able to experience in your journey at University Malaysia Pahang. So that is our main objective for today. It's going to be a very nice short introduction to the worlds of academics. Let's get started. Now, I probably have mentioned something like a sneak peek earlier of why we have to do this class. But really, the most important thing, the main reason why you guys are here for today in this class is because sooner or later, when you guys go to university, you will soon realize that you have a lot of assignments for you to complete. And for some people who probably need a little bit more adjustment, a little bit more help, to know where to find the sources for your assignments, it could be very, very difficult for people like that. And it's completely normal because you guys are transitioning from high school to university life. And when you have to complete your coursework, and also sometimes you have to complete some assignments, not just in English class, but also for any other engineering courses that you have to take in future, there will be a need for you to do a bit of writing. And that is why we have to come and listen to the class for today, because we need to be exposed and be introduced to different types of writings that they are in a world of academics. Now, sometimes your lecturer might ask you to write a report based on the recent research, probably in electric cars, for example. Or sometimes your supervisor or your lecturer, or maybe in future, if you have like a supervisor, they might ask you a question. And those are the kind of things that you will encounter in your academic life. Where would you go and find the information from? Okay. And sometimes in your academic life, you probably need to discuss amongst your friend, among your group members, some common interest. And probably you have to deliver your point of view. And there would be a need for you to go online and find out what are the current literature or research that has been done on the per se topic. Okay, and sometimes even in the class itself, there is a need for you to acquire some skills, for you to take note on whatever that your lecturers are saying in the class. So those are the kind of things or the kind of situations that require you to understand a bit of what we are going to talk about in our class for today. And I'm hoping that by introducing everybody here to the world of academics, mostly on different types of writings that you might encounter in the future, that can help you to give some general ideas, some general understanding about what you have to do in your future life as a student here in university. Now, what I want you guys to do now is that I want you to observe this table. You can see that there are about five different types of academic writing, and we have notes, we have report, we have a project, we have an essay, we have a dissertation slash a thesis, and we also have a paper. Now, these are some of the common terms, common words that you guys should know as a student in university. What I want you guys to do now is I want you to pause this video right here. Try to match the definition of these words with its meaning over here on the right. Okay, I have done an example over here. Notes, for example, is a written record of main points of a text or a lecture for a student's personal use. Okay, now, I want you guys to pause this video and try to find the definition for the rest of the words for here. All right. I hope you guys have done your matching over here. What we are going to do now is that we are going to show and reveal to everybody here the meaning or the definitions for each one of the words. I hope it's very easy. Some of you guys probably are a bit probably confused with some of the terminologies, or probably this is your first time hearing the word dissertation. Many of you guys probably are familiar with the word theses, but maybe not dissertation. So we are going to discuss on the meanings of these words right now. Okay, so first of all, when we talk about notes, it's definitely your very own personal use, and it's mainly your own writing or your own summary based on what you have heard in the lecture. So very often, a lot of students, they will have their own notebooks where they write down or they jot down some points that they got from a lecture, for example. Maybe some of you guys are doing it right now as we are doing this class right now. Some of you guys are writing down something. Those are what we call as notes. Okay, so when somebody or a lecturer asks you to write a report, it's normally referring to a description of something that a student has done. For example, maybe your lecturer is asking you to study or to investigate the students' preference on online learning, for example. So you have to do a short scale study or short scale survey to your friends. So you send it out in a Google form and you ask your friends to share it with your friends, and then they answer the survey question, and then you have to write for about 10 to 15 pages of a report. So that would be a report writing. Next would be projects. Now, you know that projects is very, very familiar word for most of you guys. You probably have done lots of projects back then when you were in high school. It's basically a piece of research. Could be individual, could be group work, and normally the topic could be chosen by the students. You know, the instructors or your teacher probably gave you a bit of some general theme. For example, you need to do a short scale or a small survey or a small project on probably on a smartphone, for example, or ICT, for example, or technology. So your teacher probably give you some general theme for your project, but most of the time, students may choose their very own topic. So that is something that we refer as a project. An essay, ladies and gentlemen, is referring to a piece of writing that is written by the students themselves, and normally it could range for about 450 words up until 1000 words, and it's actually one of the very most common type of writing in an academic setting. And normally in essay you have to express your own point of view about something. There will be a question to prompt you. For example, do you prefer online class or face-to-face classes? Okay. So there are different types of essays. Definitely there are opinion-based essay, there are descriptive essay, there are cause and effect essay, there are lots of different types of writings or essays in the world of academic. And for I also would like to mention that in our future classes in academic writing, in writing part, you guys will also be learning on opinion based writing, and this will actually be tested in your next assessment in writing. All right. Now, we have one very uncommon word here. It's called dissertation, or sometimes it's being called as a thesis. Now, for a lot of people who are in postgraduate level, like masters and PhD, they will need to create a new novelty or do a research, a very deep and extensive research. And the outcome of it is for them to produce a very thick book or dissertation or thesis to illustrate the process, the method, the literature review, the kind of everything. Okay, all of the processes of the research will be hardbound into a book, and that will be what we call as a dissertation and a thesis. It's normally for postgraduate students, masters and PhD students. Now, finally, we also have a paper. Now, a paper is actually a very general term, and it's referring to any kind of writing. It could be an essay, it could be a report, could also be an article, or even a presentation. Now, for when your lecturer gave you instruction to do a paper, you need to ask in more detail, ask your lecturers, ask your instructor in greater details what they meant by a paper. Is it like an essay, or is it like a report, or even an article? So if you are given a task to write a paper or to do a paper, you need to ask your lecturer or your instructor more details of the assignment, because it's a very, very general term. Okay, now that we are all very familiar with some of the probably common terms or words that we probably have heard before, or maybe this is your first time hearing this, and I hope that this is a very nice introduction for some of you guys who do not know any of these words. Okay, so let's move now into looking at different types of writings that we might encounter. I want you to pause this video, have a look at this. Now, if some of you guys have been using Google Scholar, for example, you can find these things, okay? These are normally in a paper or in a journal article, okay? It's basically the first part of the journal article. What is it called? Okay, I want you to read this. It's just one single paragraph that summarizes the whole study or the whole purpose and finding of a study. This is something that we call as an abstract, ladies and gentlemen. An abstract is basically about 200 words of a summary of what the author has done on a study or on a research. This is an abstract. Next, this is the list of the sources, and normally you find it in at the end of the book or at the end of an article. What do we call this? This is what we call as reference list. Now, I want you to have a look at this. This is actually very, very common as well. And I even you can know the answers just by looking at the picture over here. This is the section normally towards the end of the book, towards the end of the report, or towards the end of the article, where additional information of the research or the study is found. This is what we call as appendix. Okay, it has all of the details. Okay, we also have here a short section where the authors would want to thank people who contributed in the research. This is what we call as an acknowledgement. You can find this in your journal articles, or if you have a book, you can find it in the beginning pages of the book. Now, this page or this particular article over here, or place or compartment in the article, is where you view and you summarize what other researchers or writers have done on the topic that you talk about. And you can see it because there would be some what we call here as in-text citation, where you put the name, the first name, sorry, the last name of the authors and also the year of the publication, and you basically summarize other people who have done research of the topic, what the other people have said of the topic. And this is what we call as literature review. Okay, you are reviewing the current studies, current literature about the topic. Okay, and we also have here, okay, where some other people, not the writer, not the author, but some other people, normally very famous people or very well known name in the field, to give a bit of, like kata alu-aluan, or giving like an introduction or introductory words of the book or of the piece of writing. This is what we call as forward. Okay, so basically a forward is when some other people are reviewing the book and basically recommending how good this book is and recommending other people to actually read it. Normally we would invite someone very famous to give a bit of like a forward in a book, for example. Okay, so those are some of the types of writings, or some parts in the writing or in academic, that I hope that a lot of you guys would be able to know. And this is extremely important because you would, in future, you will need to read a lot of journal articles. You will need to read a lot of books, for example, and you have to know what each section in the book or in the journal article, what is it for and what does it do, and you have to start familiarizing yourself so that you know what each parts or each section mean. Okay, moving forward, now we have to talk about how you guys can actually find suitable sources. And it's actually very, very important because good student, an effective student, needs to know exactly where to find the sources. Okay, so a lot of people very much underestimate the importance of finding a good reading, and a lot of people think that going to the library is the best solution for it, and might not be the case, especially when online classes are being held in most days these days. Probably going to physical library is not a good choice. But to me, an important skill as a student is also finding where to find the good sources. Okay, so instead of me telling you where to get suitable and reliable sources, I want you guys to tell me, how do you do it? Okay, let's say, for example, your lecturer asks you to do a research on electric cars. Where can you find the information from? And how do you know that the website or the place that you go to has reliable sources? Okay, what I want you guys to do now, I want you to scan this QR code. It will bring you to an external link that is this one. Okay, click on the plus button here. You guys know Padlet, you are familiar with this, we have done this before. Write your name in the subject here and tell me, okay, tell me, where did you get your sources? Okay, where did you get your sources when you are doing an assignment? Where can you find things? Okay, so I want you to type your answers over here. Okay, where did you get it? And this will be taken as the attendance for our class for today. So please do make sure that you put your name here in this Padlet, okay, to get your attendance taken for this particular class. Okay, so I only will consider you have listened to my recording if you have done this part. Okay, all right, so try to scan this QR code and list down to me, where can you find your sources when you are doing your assignments over here. Okay, now, let's continue now to talk about different types of sources. Okay, now, in our face to face class in week 6, I will be revealing to everybody here, and we shall be discussing places where you can find reliable sources. So, hold your horses, and we will discuss the answers in the class when we meet each other in week 6. Now, let's talk about different types of sources now, when finding the right source, okay, definitely going to a physical library would be a very convenient place for you to go, but sometimes it can easily be accessed online. I want to introduce everybody here, and I wanted you guys to make it as your favorite place to go online, and you guys can also bookmark it. It's by going to Google Scholar. Okay. Google Scholar is the best and very reliable place for you to find information. Okay, let's say, for example, what's the difference? First of all, let's talk about the difference between Google Scholar and also the normal Google that you have here. Now, definitely, Google Scholar will link or bring your finding or your search result to published papers. So when you have publications or published papers like articles or book writings, it will bring you to the academic world. In comparison to, if you just simply Googling it over here, it will bring you to different websites. Now, when you have started your studies here in university level, you have to understand that websites are not very much reliable. Why? Because the information is not proven. The best way is for you guys to go to Google Scholar. Let's say, for example, you are asked to do a research on electric cars. Okay, so you guys can go and find papers on electric cars in Google Scholar. In comparison, if you just simply Google, okay, things on your normal Google site, it will bring you to a lot of newspaper articles and stuff like that, which could be quite unreliable. And the reason why it's unreliable is also because it's written by people who probably have bias. It's not objective in comparison to research like journal articles that are published in journals. Most of them are a bit more objective. Okay, so that is why I highly recommend everybody here to bookmark your Google Scholar over here. And when looking for places for you to find any kind of things that you are required to when you're doing your assignment and stuff, please go and find in Google Scholar. I also will be sharing with you guys some more tips and tricks in the class in week 6, where you can find free downloadable books and also resources, and I will talk about it and share with you guys in our class in week 6, so stay tuned to that. Okay, Now, okay, what we want to talk about is to talk about different types of sauces. So, as we all know, there are different types of sauces. There are books, there are ebook, there are PDF documents, there are journal articles, there are government documents, there are dissertations and theses, there are also some lecture notes and course materials. And the sources or places where you can get information are really, really endless, especially in the world of technology these days. You can find a lot in the internet, but please do make sure that it is reliable. Okay, so another tips for you to find information if you go to websites, normally any kind of websites that ends the URL on top here that ends with .edu. Okay, normally it's a bit more reliable because it's referring to an academic institution. Okay, or AC. So AC is also means it's academic as well. So just a bit of tips over there. So if you can find any websites that ends with .edu or .ac is a little bit more academic, so it's quite reliable. Okay, so for your homework for today, so there are two things for you to complete in order for you to get your attendance taken for today. Number one is to complete the QR code from before, and number two is for you to complete this table here. Now, this table, I will collect the homework once we are all back in week 6. I will be asking you guys on this in the class, so please do make sure that you complete this. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to take out a piece of paper or your book, your notebook, draw this table, and try to think about what are the good things of different sources in academic journey. Okay, so we have here textbooks, we have websites, we have journal articles, we have official reports from the government, we have newspaper, we also have ebooks. Okay, I don't want you guys to go online or anything. There could be, I want you guys to think about this yourself. Okay, what could be the good things or the pros of using websites? What could be the disadvantages or the consequence, not so good points of using websites? Okay, so if we look at textbook, for example, is normally written especially for students, therefore the language is very straightforward and easy to understand. But the problem with textbooks is that knowledge is always emerging, so you would have different editions. So I think a lot of you guys can relate to me. If you have textbook in high school, normally there will be different editions or versions of the book. So because new information and new knowledge keep on updating, we have to make sure that we get the latest copy because it could get outdated. Okay, another disadvantage of textbook is sometimes it could be too general. So let's say, for example, you want to know more about electric cars, for example. And because the textbook was written in 2010, there's no Tesla back then, or Tesla is probably not very famous. So the examples that are written in the textbook could be very general and could be very outdated. So that could be a disadvantage of a textbook. Okay, so again, for your homework, I want you to think about this yourself. What could be the good thing of referring to a website, or journal article, or official report, or newspaper, or ebook? And also think about what could be the bad points, or the could be some disadvantages of these sources. Okay, so please complete the two homework. Number one is for you to tell me in a Padlet here. Okay, tell me in this Padlet over here, how or where did you get your information or your sources when doing assignment. This number one. And number two, please complete this in your book. I will check it once we are back in week 6. All right, thank you guys so much for coming to our class for today. I'll see you guys in our next videos. Bye.